Ambassador Zethkar's crystalline fingers trembled as he reviewed the Galactic Council's emergency session transcripts for the 100th time. 3 standard cycles had passed since humanity had walked out of the peace negotiations, and the consequences were becoming catastrophically clear. The Velthari representative across the chamber was visibly sweating through his environmental suit, his species' usual arrogance replaced by barely contained panic. "They're systematically dismantling our trade routes," he wheezed. 17 cargo fleets intercepted in the Kepler Nebula alone. They don't destroy the ships. They just take everything and send the crews home with a message." "What message?" asked the Morden delegation leader, her 4 eyes blinking in rapid succession, a sure sign of distress among her people. "You had your chance to talk," Zethkar replied, his voice echoing hollow in the vast chamber. "Now we communicate differently." The irony wasn't lost on any of them. 6 months ago, they had summoned humanity to these very halls, demanding they answer for their aggressive expansion and reckless terraforming projects. The younger species had been becoming too successful, too quickly. Their colonies were thriving where others had failed, their technology advancing at an alarming rate, their influence spreading like wildfire through the outer rim systems. The established powers of the galaxy had decided it was time to put the humans in their place. Zethkar remembered the human delegation's arrival with perfect clarity. They had come in a single, unremarkable vessel, no escort fleet, no show of force. Their ambassador, a middle-aged woman named Sarah Chen, had listened patiently as species after species leveled accusations against humanity. Illegal settlement of unclaimed worlds, violation of ancient territorial agreements that predated human spaceflight by millennia, disruption of established trade monopolies. The humans had responded with calm professionalism, presenting documentation for every colony, proof of purchase for every world, evidence of their legal right to exist in spaces the elder species had, written off as worthless. But the Council had already made its decision. The sanctions would stand. Humanity's expansion would be limited. Their trade would be regulated. Their technology would be shared for the good of the galaxy. Chen had stood slowly when the final judgment was read. "Let me understand this correctly," she had said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. "You're punishing us for succeeding where you failed. You're taking our worlds because we made them valuable. You're stealing our innovations because we dared to innovate." The Council had bristled at her words. How dare a representative of such a young species speak so boldly to their betters? "You mistake pragmatism for theft," the Velthari ambassador had sneered. "The galaxy requires stability. Humanity's unchecked growth threatens that stability." Chen had smiled then, a cold expression that should have warned them all. "You're absolutely right about one thing. Unchecked growth does threaten stability." She had gathered her data pads with deliberate care. "The difference between us is that you believe you can check it." The human delegation had filed out without another word, leaving behind a chamber full of self-satisfied politicians who believed they had successfully neutered a potential threat. How wrong they had been. The first sign of trouble came within days. Human colonies throughout the galaxy simply stopped responding to outside communication. Not abandoned. Their signals were still active, their beacon networks still operational. They just refused to acknowledge any transmissions from non-human sources. Trade agreements were honored to the letter until their expiration dates, then simply not renewed. Within weeks, the economic impact became apparent. Humans had quietly become integral to dozens of galactic industries. Their agricultural techniques had revolutionized food production on marginal worlds. Their medical advances had extended lifespans across multiple species. Their engineering solutions had made profitable dozens of mining operations that had been on the verge of closure. All of it stopped. But humanity didn't simply withdraw. That would have been manageable. Instead, they began demonstrating exactly what unchecked growth actually looked like. Ships appeared in systems throughout the galaxy. Not warships, but vessels of impossible design that seemed to bend the laws of physics themselves. They established new colonies on worlds previously thought uninhabitable, terraforming entire planets in months rather than centuries. Their technology leaped forward as if some invisible restraint had been removed. Most unsettling of all, they began recruiting. Other species dissatisfied colonies, mining operations struggling under corporate mismanagement, research stations abandoned by their governments, all received the same offer. Join the human sphere willingly and prosper, continue under the old system, and be bypassed entirely as humanity built around them. They've taken 47 systems in the past cycle alone, reported the Altarian delegate, his usually melodious voice strained. Not through conquest, through voluntary defection. Our own colonies are choosing them over us. Zethkar pulled up the latest intelligence reports on his personal display. The numbers were staggering. Human space had tripled in size since the peace talks ended. Their fleet strength was estimated to have increased by orders of magnitude, though no one could confirm exact numbers since their ships seemed to appear and disappear at will. They're not breaking any laws, the Morden leader pointed out bitterly. Every world that joins them does so voluntarily. Every trade agreement they abandon expires naturally. Every territory they claim is legally unoccupied. Because they're making the laws irrelevant, Zethkar realized. They're not fighting the system. They're building a better one and letting beings choose. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Galactic Council's authority rested entirely on the voluntary participation of its member species. If humanity could offer a more attractive alternative, "We have to reopen negotiations," the Velthari ambassador said, his earlier arrogance completely gone. "Invite them back, offer concessions." Zethkar's laugh was bitter. "With what leverage? They're proving our point for us. Unchecked growth does threaten stability, our stability, and they're just getting started." On his display, new reports flooded in. 3 more systems had declared independence and requested admission to the human sphere. A breakthrough in FTL communication technology had emerged from human space, making their existing networks obsolete overnight. Most disturbing of all, long-range sensors had detected massive construction projects in the galactic outer rim. Structures of unknown purpose but clearly enormous scale. Humanity hadn't departed the peace talks in defeat. They had simply decided that talking was a waste of time when they could demonstrate their point more effectively through action. The galaxy was learning, too late, the difference between managing a threat and creating an enemy. They had tried to limit humanity's growth and instead had taught them that the galaxy's existing power structures were obstacles to be bypassed rather than systems to work within. As Zethkar watched another system request admission to human space, he realized the terrible truth. The peace talks hadn't failed because humanity was unwilling to compromise. They had failed because humanity had never needed the galaxy's permission to succeed. They had simply been polite enough to ask for it. Not anymore.